Hey everybody, this is Brenda Devine from Purpose 8 Institute, and you're listening to my podcast, Living a Life of Purpose, where we discuss the importance of purpose in our everyday lives. Discovering and living out your purpose keeps you focused on God's purpose. That is sharing the good news of salvation with others. This podcast is for people like me, still searching for the answers to who am I and why am I here? You and I were designed and created by God for purpose, and we have much to do. You can listen and subscribe to my podcast, Living a Life of Purpose with Brenda Devine on Anchor and all other podcast platforms. Hey, this is Brenda Devine from Purpose 8 Institute. Hey, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of my podcast, Living a Life of Purpose. So today's topic is when my mama told me I was black, the weight of discrimination and bias. I picked this topic because as a woman, as a black woman, as a person of color, my experience with discrimination, there's a weight to it. There's a weight that we carry being black, people of color, being a woman. There is a weight of discrimination and bias. As a little girl, I remember when my mother told me that I was black. I wasn't brown. I wasn't white. I was black. And I remember that weight. And I remember when I told my son that he was black, not white, not brown. And I remember the weight, seeing the weight fall on him and his confusion. I remember being teased in school because I liked to learn and to ask questions and did well in school. I remember the weight of being told that I talk white, I act white. I remember that weight. I remember my first professional job and being hired, coming to find out later that I was hired to fill a quota. You get 2 for 1 when you're black and a woman. And afterwards, immediately afterwards, the attempt to fire me because I had met that quota. And I remember that weight. I remember the other analysts, and one in particular thought that I knew every black person in Detroit because I was black, and he didn't know any. And he thought I knew about chicken and about gold chains and drugs. And I remember that weight. I remember walking into a room, into a meeting, and being the only black woman in the room, and being in charge of the meeting, sitting next to someone who worked for me, and they thought the person that worked for me was in charge of the meeting. I remember that weight. I remember that weight of having to work 3 times as hard in any and everything that I do, just so I can keep up and be seen as an equal. But you know that never happens. I remember the weight of being in meetings, being honest, being direct, speaking my mind, speaking about my expertise that I bring to the table, and being told that I need to learn to communicate better. I remember the weight. I remember sitting across from a boss because he had never really had to deal with a black woman before or speak to a black woman. Probably didn't even have any black friends. And he had a problem with me because he had a problem with him. And I felt that weight. I feel that weight when I'm driving. I see the police and I think about, okay, do I have everything in order? Will I be pulled over? I feel that weight. And I feel the relief when I pull off and they're not following me. I don't see the lights. I'm not getting a ticket. My insurance isn't going up. I feel the weight. I feel the weight when I've gone to work and there was a project and I didn't get it. Who knows what the reason was? But I feel the weight when I'm asked to come and clean up what was done wrong. I feel the weight because I could have been there in the very beginning and not at the end to clean up. I feel the weight when a young Caucasian man was hired, no experience whatsoever, and I was asked to train him. Nah, that didn't happen. I'm not going to do that. But I felt the weight. I felt the weight when I asked someone a question and asked, would my life change? Was there something you needed to tell me? Was there something that you were hiding? Because I knew you saw bias. I knew you saw black. I knew you saw woman and you weren't comfortable. I felt that weight. Being a woman is a beautiful thing. It has a weight. Being black is a beautiful thing. It has a weight. Discrimination and bias is just like any other box that somebody tries to put you in. had to make a decision that I wasn't going to let anybody put me in a box. It's against my nature. It's against my disposition. It's against my temperament. It's against what my purpose is about. We were all created, each of us, for purpose. I am not just a woman. I am not just a black woman. I am not just a person of color. I am God's creation. He is against discrimination and bias and cliques and people who see no value in another human because of their color, because of their race, because of their gender, because of whatever makes them what they perceive to be different. God doesn't see us that way. He sees us as his children. And we can't see ourselves that way either. I've gotten angry and disappointed and all of those good things. But I never once thought that I'm going to fit in that box. I'm going to be in that box. I'm going to acknowledge that box. I'm going to accept that box. I never, ever accepted that. Because I know what my value is. And if you're carrying around a weight that I'm a woman, that I'm black, that I'm a person of color, I'm different, you feel like that's holding you back, you're really doing a disservice to God. You're not really operating within your capacity and your design. He created you the way you are created for a reason. Reasons for purpose for this time in life. You can't just die and roll over because of what someone else says about you, thinks about you, the roadblocks that come against you. They're difficult, they're challenging, but they build character, they build resilience, they test you, they test your faith, they make you smarter, they make you more patient. There is long suffering sometimes, but you have to realize who you are, what you are, and never, ever let anyone put you in a box and tell you what you can't do, who you can't be, what you can't have. That's none of their business. You are God's business. And you got business to take care of for him. Being a servant, helping other people, chasing after your purpose, learning more about yourself, doing good in the world. You don't have time to be weighed down with somebody's box. So, you gotta stay resilient. You have to stay in prayer, you have to keep God with you. You got to remember all the things you've been studying about, how much He loves you, your purpose, your calling. That comes first before anything. Your purpose, serving God, that comes first, even before discrimination and bias. Because if you're not careful, you will let those words, let them pull you down. About 4 years ago, I had a person at my place of employment, high up person, matter of fact, at least in his mind. Anyway, he called me marginal. We had gotten into an argument, and he called me marginal. And that really messed with me a little bit. And from time to time, I think about it. And now I don't think about it the same way. Because essentially he was saying, you're really not important. You're just here to fill a space. You really don't have much value in the bigger scheme of things. Not like me. And now that I understand more about my purpose, more what God has called me to do, I feel sorry for him because he didn't see me as a human. He saw me as an obstacle to something that he wanted. And when you think about it, when you think about discrimination and bias, and it's really just a grab. It's really just someone being greedy. So they gotta put you in a box, put you over to the side, so that you're not living life at all. That you're gonna just settle in that box. And while you're settled in that box, they're gonna take everything they want. They're gonna grab up everything they want while you're just sitting over there quietly, or crying, or being bitter and mad, believing that you can't ever get out of that box. But it's not true. Because you're not gonna ever feel like that. How can you feel like that when you know that God loves you? That you're created for purpose, that you're here to help, that you are here for a season. But what you do in this life goes beyond just this moment. Yes, we live and we die, but what we do to help people, to serve God, it lasts for an eternity. So don't ever let anyone put you in a box. But be strategic. Be perceptive. Look beyond the words and the actions and see it for what it really is. It's greedy. It's prideful. It's insecure. It's not self-aware. It's not kind. It's not gracious. It's none of those things. So look at it for what it is. And remember who you are, what you are called to do. And press Press on what you want to do, what God has called you to do. Don't let your race, your gender, your color, your different, don't let any of that stop you. Don't let it pull you down and be bitter. You can cry a little bit, roll on the ground, get it out. But keep pressing. You don't need to understand it. You're too busy living this life of purpose. You don't have time for no mess. So be resilient, be prayerful, stay focused on your purpose. This is Brenda Devine from Purpose 8 Institute. Hey, I'll talk to you in a little bit. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me on my podcast, Living a Life of Purpose, on Anchor and all other major podcast platforms. To learn more about Purpose 8 Institute and our ministry of sharing the importance of purpose, please visit our website, www.purpose8institute.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and even TikTok. If you would like to learn more about purpose beyond this podcast, Living a Life of Purpose, you can also purchase one of my books that are available on my website, purpose8institute.com, and also on Amazon.